The purpose of this video is to ensure that parents and carers are aware of the methods of communication that school will use, to be able to understand the data that they will find in the various reports that will be issued throughout the year, and to understand when and where they can access this information. School will use a range of different methods through which to communicate the vast array of data and information that we have to share throughout the year. The main one will be through Satchel One app. All parents and carers should have access to the Satchel One app. They can have on their mobile phone or they can have access to over the internet. In Show My Homework, not only will you be able to track the homework that has been set for your child, but you'll receive regular information about behaviour and achievement points, attendance, timetables, and copies of all the written reports that are sent out throughout the year. Wherever possible, the school will try and use email or phone to talk to parents and ensure they gain information in a timely manner. Every week, the school issues the Fisher Flyer, which is our newsletter, which contains upcoming dates and celebrations of the work that our learners will have achieved that week. Our website is a great source of information, whether that be more detailed information about policies, timetables, dates, calendars, and so on. Some of the main events that we have throughout the year where you have the opportunity to learn more about what's going on will be parents' evenings, data reports that will be sent out twice a year, and a more detailed progress report that parents will receive once per year. Parents' evenings will be in person. After a recent survey, more than 70% of parents said they preferred the in-person ones compared to online. The dates will be sent out at the beginning of the academic year in the communications pack, but will also be advertised on our school website, which I'll show you a little bit later where to access. Although all appointments will be made in person, we do use an online platform called School Cloud through which you will be able to make your appointments online. Data reports will be sent out twice per year. All of the information will be found within the Satchel One app, within the Documents section. On a data report, it will contain information about the summary of the behaviour and reward points that have been issued so far that year, attendance information, including any absences, targets for individual subjects, grades that will indicate their current attainment, and then a progress indication that will tell you whether or not your child is working below, at, or above their target grades. The progress report is a more detailed document. In this, you will find one page for each subject area, which allows there to be linked with useful information for each curriculum area, a behaviour breakdown about the behaviour for learning scores and the participation within lessons, and then detailed specific guidance on what students are doing well with and what they need to do to improve. Some of the statements that you will find here will originate from statement banks, and as such, they might at times seem impersonal. However, the time has been put in to make sure that these statements are as specific and as detailed as possible to enable you to help your child at home make the progress they need to make. Data is perhaps one of the most confusing parts of a report, and quite often some parents and carers will say they don't quite understand the information there. The purpose of the next few minutes of this video is to try and go through all the aspects and elements that you will find and outline what the information means. First and foremost, targets. Targets can be very difficult in that sometimes some students will find that they're too low and therefore may lose aspirations. Sometimes targets can be too high and cause levels of anxiety. So it's important to understand where targets come from. In the vast majority of cases, targets are generated using information from Key Stage 2 SATs, where performance in maths and English is averaged. This then is compared to national results. On the left-hand side, you can see the average Key Stage 2 SAT scores. And on the right-hand side, for students that achieved that SAT score, the average GCSE grade they would achieve 5 years later at the end of Year 11. So if we look at the example here, students who, when they were in Key Stage 2 SATs, got an average of 100.5, when they did their GCSEs 5 years later, they got an average of 3.8 in their GCSEs. Similarly, students that managed to get 102.5, their average GCSE score was 4.2. It's really important to understand that that's just an average. And obviously, performance at Key Stage 2 SATs does not necessarily mean that a student's going to get a particular grade at GCSE. Lots of factors take place within the 5 years between Year 6 SATs and Year 11 GCSEs. This here is an example taken from 2023. It shows the percentage GCSE outcomes in GCSE English language for students who had a Key Stage 2 score between 100 and 102. Remember on the previous image, we saw that students with these Key Stage 2 scores would be averaging GCSE grades of between 3.8 and 4.2. This graph shows us that 26% of students who had primary SAT scores between 100 and 102, 26% managed to attain a GCSE grade 3. 25% of students in this situation managed to get a GCSE grade 4, which backs up the average of a 3.8 to 4.2. However, there were some students who managed to get a grade 5 or a grade 6, in fact, all the way up to a grade 9. And some students, unfortunately, got a U grade, which is ungradable. This just goes to show that whilst an average target can be generated, this does not mean that this limits a student to any particular grade. Therefore, the grade that you will receive on reports will be a whole number and then in brackets with a decimal point, as generated by the national averages. This should give you an indication as to the minimum grade that we expect students to work towards, with an indication of how high or close they are to that based on their Key Stage 2 primary scores. So if that's where the targets are, what grades do we use? The grades that we use are GCSE grades. GCSE grades run from 1 up to 9. A 0 or U, which is ungradable, is the only fail grade at GCSE. All grades above that are passes, with 1 being the lowest pass and 9 the highest. Some key grades to be aware of. A grade 4 is classed as a standard pass. Back in the old GCSE grades, this would be the equivalent of a grade C. The government very much are trying to promote students getting at least a grade 5, which they're classing as a strong pass. And many schools and sixth form colleges, ours included, would require a grade 6 at GCSE for a student to study that subject at A level after Year 11. This shows the GCSE grade distribution from 2023 of all subjects, all GCSE grades. It shows that 5% of all GCSE grades were awarded a grade 9, 7% were awarded grade 8, and so on and so forth. The shape that you can see here is classed as a normal distribution. What that means is that there are some grades at the lower end, some grades at the top end, but most of the grades tend to be in the middle. We use this pattern when we look at grades in Year 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We try to use the language that students are familiar with at primary school. If we break the normal distribution up into 3 sections, you have grades 0 to 3, which we would class as students working towards the expected standard. Grades 4, 5, and 6 are expected standard. And grades 7, 8, and 9 are those working at greater depth. In Year 7, it's too difficult to be able to distinguish between the work that some learners produce that would be classed as a grade 9 compared to a grade 8. This is particularly true for subjects where perhaps learners have not had a huge amount of time studying this, such as languages, or art, DT, music, and other subjects where they weren't used to receiving grades at primary school. For that reason, in Year 7, we limit the grades that students can be awarded to grades 1, 2, and 3. Again, matching that language that we used before, working towards, students in Year 7 would be awarded a grade 1, working at the expected level, grade 2, and those that are working at greater depth, grade 3. The numbers you can see here at the top of these bar charts are the percentage of learners that would be expected in Year 7 to achieve these grades. This information will be shared with you at the top of all data reports. So when you see that your child has received a particular grade in a particular subject, you'll be able to work out what percentage of learners, traditionally within a year group, would be expected to achieve that grade. When students move into year 8, as they are beginning to cover more content and perhaps content that's a little bit more sophisticated, we're able to introduce a greater degree of grades. Therefore, in year 8, students will be awarded grades 1 to 5. Again, following the idea of expected working towards and greater depth. Again, with the percentages of learners that would be expected to achieve these grades shown. Continuing the theme as you move into year 9, as additional content has been covered at a more sophisticated level, we allow grades 1 to 7, again following 3 different levels. And when students finally enter year 10, we introduce all 9 grades. Therefore, it's important to realise that there is a grade progression as you move from year 7 through to year 10, with a limit of the grades that are available in any particular year group. As I said before, this information will be shared at the top of every data report so that you're familiar with the grades that are attainable with any particular year group and the percentage of learners that would be expected to attain that grade. So if students have their targets and you're shown the grades that they're currently working at, it's important to be able to work out whether this indicates good progress. Is a student on track to get where they need to get to, or are they working slightly below where they need to be? Take as an example someone whose target grade is a grade 5. Obviously, they're working at their target if they get a grade 5. But it's certainly possible in their next data report to have done slightly better on a test where maybe they're given a grade 6, and then perhaps the next time have done slightly worse where they get a grade 4. Rather than constantly say they're working above, below, we allow a bracket, a grade either side of their target grade, and say that if they're working within that bracket, they're classed as on target. If they work more than a grade above their target grade, they're classed as above, and if they are more than a grade below their target grade, they will be classed as working below target. On data reports, students will be shown their target, the grade they're working at, and they will be given an indication with a plus, minus, or equals so that you can easily see whether or not students are on track to attain their target grade by the end of year 11. All students will receive assessment fortnights. In years 7 to 10, they will have one fortnight, which means that they will have assessments in all of the subjects that they study. Year 7 to 9 will have these assessments take place in lessons, in their normal classrooms, whereas Year 10 will have theirs taking place inside the gym, replicating the conditions that they would be doing their external GCSEs at the end of Year 11. All students will receive timetables 2 weeks before the beginning of their assessment fortnight that enables them to begin revising multiple topics and balancing revision across a number of different subjects over an extended period of time, both of which are skills that are really important as students progress through the year groups. Students in Year 11, 12 and 13 will have 2 assessment fortnights. They will receive their timetables individually via email from the exam secretary, but can also find their exam timetables by going to the exams section of the website and finding exams timetable. This will be updated throughout the year to have the most recent upcoming exams shown. The schedule of reports will be shared with parents at the beginning of the year in a communications booklet. But if that booklet were to be lost, all the information can still be found on our school website. To access this, go to the information section, and within there, go to the communications subpage. On the communications subpage, there are a number of pieces of information that you'll find useful. The first will be a table towards the bottom of the page that will outline the dates of parents' evenings, data reports. There's the booklet that will be sent out at the beginning of the year, and there is a link to our school cloud website, which is where you'll be able to make appointments for parents' evenings. There will also be a link to the online video that you're watching now. Thank you for watching this video. We hope that you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please access the school communications booklet, as discussed a few seconds ago, to find the emails of the people that you may wish to contact.